There are 168 hours in a week. We go to church for 1 hour. What about the other 167?
Cue this podcast. We're here to bring the church to you the rest of the week. I'm David Vogel, the Director of Communication here at Central Community Church.
I'm Corey Brodel, the Director of Community. We've been to the 1 hour in church. Now welcome to the other 167.
Well, welcome to 167. For those of you who joined us last week, this is part 2 in our podcast with Hope Ranch for Women. If you did not listen or watch that first podcast, I would encourage you to pause this one right here. Don't leave it, but pause it. Go back to our last episode and catch up because there was some really interesting kind of backstory to the ministry and just information about what Hope Ranch does. Of course, we are here today again with Cathy Turner, the chairman of the board, right, for Hope Ranch for Women, and John Oelze, the executive director. So we're going to keep talking about this really cool ministry.
Yeah, so last week we talked about just kind of scratching the surface of what Hope Ranch for Women did and kind of a little bit of the history behind it, but the scope of what we do there. And it's a transformational place, if I can say it that way. Is that fair to say? It's for this transformation of heart, mind, soul. And you talked, John, last time about there's 8 different dimensions of this. But talk to us. I know that right now we hear a lot about this human trafficking and sex trafficking and stuff. Is that real?
You know, it is unfortunately incredibly real. In fact, in 2019, the city of Wichita was named the 5th top city for the origination of human trafficking. And it is just unbelievable how horrific things are. The average life expectancy of a person involved in human trafficking is 7 years. And the average amount of times that a woman is raped during the span of her time in human trafficking is 6,000 times.
Wow. And so they're in trafficking an average of 7 years and being raped 6,000 times. You told us the stat of 2019, but yeah. I think last week we talked about this was a dream that was planted in 2011, correct? And then it became a non-for-profit officially in 2013? 13, 14. Okay. And so you fast forward from when it became a nonprofit, 5 years later, that Wichita is one of in the top 5, you said the 5th place that originates in the United States. That shows that it's real here too. What does it look like and what happens in trafficking?
It can take on many different facets of how it looks. Pornography is a huge reality. And unfortunately, because as Cathy said last week, as long as there is a supply or demand, there will be a supply. Mm-hmm. And so pornography plays a huge part in drawing that need, unfortunately, for human trafficking and that need for exploitation to take place. So
when let's say when the porn industry understands that there's a demand, they've got to produce a supply. So they're hiring people out, vulnerable people. They're hiring them out and making them a slave. Is that fair to say? Is that how? Because sometimes I think that we see, pornography. That's just something I do in my home, and that has nothing. I'm not trafficking any women, but there's a direct cause and effect, is there not?
That's right. That's right.
And so, what do we do about this as the church, as Hope Ranch for Women? What do we do?
I think, for one, it's important for us to understand that there is a range of work that can be done. Mm-hmm. We currently are sitting in a place on the restoration of those that are surviving the issues of human trafficking. So we sit on the backside. there is a front side work that could be done, and I think the church can absolutely engage in that. I think the church absolutely has to engage on the restoration and the help for women who have been exploited. They need to open their arms. But I also believe that the church needs to open their arms to those who are doing the exploiting, those that are doing the purchasing of sex, whether it is a purchase through porn, whether it's a purchase of actual sex acts, whatever it may be. There needs to be a safe place within the church where they can come and seek the healing and the help that they should have. So my hope and my request of any church is put me out of business by taking care of the demand. If you will take care of the demand, I promise you can put me out of business, and that's exactly what I want you to do. So there's the demand. There's the issue that we are raising generations of kids who, while they may live in a home, they are fatherless. And fathers have a huge amount of responsibility of speaking identity, value, and worth to both girls and boys. They get to teach their girls that they're worthy of being loved by one man instead of dozens, that they are worthy of being cared for. The fathers have the opportunity to teach young men how to respect a woman, how to raise up strong young people. And that is what we need the men to do. Then the women come alongside and they nurture the identity that the man gives. And I think it's important for the church to get out of retreat mode, pretend it doesn't exist, get on the battlefield, understand what they can do in their homes, what they can understand what they can do in their schools, in political areas, in their businesses, side by side with people who do not know Jesus Christ. If you will win Jesus Christ back to or win the world back to Jesus Christ, we have a potential of taking over this issue.
Yeah. Now, we talked before about the demand. And I think that in our minds, we automatically think pornography and men. But Cathy, you've said that that's not necessarily an equal thing of going, it's just pornography, that equals a man. Tell us about that stat that you shared with me earlier about the...
Leading indicators are showing that the fastest growing number of individuals using porn are college-age women. 60% of all college-age women are engaging in porn in some form or fashion, 40% engaging 30 minutes per day. And the reason that we believe this is happening is it is a desensitizing to the sexual act. And so the enemy has taken on the issue of sexual pleasure, and he, of course, as we all know, has made it into his playground instead of the holiness of what it is intended to be between a man and woman in marriage. Well, when he got a hold of it, then women have come around in a strange, odd way of determining, you know what, I am not going to be exploited by a man. If somebody's going to exploit me and make money, I'm going to be the one doing it to myself. And there's been this desensitizing of a woman's heart and mind about the issue of sex. And they're the number one growing group of people that are using porn.
Wow. So you talked a little bit about creating a home environment where you raise up strong children, but as a parent, how do you watch for signs that maybe your child or maybe even just a friend or somebody else that's important in your life is maybe vulnerable or struggling with something? What are some ways to watch for that?
Yeah, and I think we need to be cautious that we don't say that, okay, these are the 3 signs to look for, because it really varies with every individual. I mean, they could become very isolated, very quiet and reserved, or they could become very boisterous and rebellious. It's not so much, in my thinking, it's not so much looking for specific individual signs as it is looking for change.
Just that they're different
The change. And that gets back to the importance of fathers parents, but fathers engaging with their daughters, and that they know their daughter, they know what they're like, and they spend time with them so that they have their radars on full speed, and they go, boy, there's a difference here going on. What is that? What is going on? And then they do follow up with that. They are engaging. They are being warriors with their kids and for their kids, and active in that.
That's right.
Okay, we talked a little bit about men, pornography. We talked a little bit about women. We've got, Cathy, you kind of had this dream that God gave you, but John, now you're a man here working with Hope Ranch for Women. So I know you talked last week a little bit about you and your wife and that journey of coming on board here, but what is it that men can do in this fight to help women who have been trafficked?
Wow, there's so many, to me, there's so many different things I can do. One is just, like I said, be the warrior. Be the warrior with your family. Be the warrior in your community. Be the warrior in the church. Stand up for the wrongdoing that is taking place. Become more aware of how horrible this really is. And not just think that it's something that's out there, because it is horrific. It is the second largest criminal industry worldwide. Wow. Next to illegal drugs, the second largest. And we could go down, drive down Broadway. It is horrific. And we just kind of want to set that aside. It's much easier to talk about politics than it is to talk about the horrificness of what's going on.
Politics is not always easy to talk about.
Especially today. Yes.
So that says a lot.
And being valiant warriors for this battle at home, in church, and in saying we are going to take this back. The holiness of the sexual relationship Satan has taken over. And we are going to take this back. And so we are going to teach our kids. We're going to love our kids. We're going to model this. We're going to model what it means to be a godly father, a godly husband in front of our kids and in front of others at church. We're going to work with other men, create that safe place for men to be real and for men to deal with their addictions. We're going to engage in our community like never before. We were talking earlier, as we were kind of preparing for this, about even curriculum within the school systems. And it is insane, some of the curriculum that's being put out there. And it's too X-rated to even talk about on this podcast. And yet it's being taught and being pushed at kids in elementary schools. And so where are the men that are standing up for that and getting engaged in their school systems? I'm a guy, so you can rip on me, but oftentimes what I have seen, at least, is women more, moms more, that engage in the school, to stand up for the fight for curriculum or for whatever within the school district. We need men to do that. Right. And we need men to engage into the city in the community organizations and fight for this crisis.
That's good. So one of the things we've basically said is if we could eliminate the demand, we wouldn't need a supply, right?
That's right.
And so one of the things we always talk about on this podcast and here at church is what can we do? What's some action points? And so really one of the things that I've just been thinking about as we're talking is we need to do something. And so one of the things I was thinking was if you're struggling with porn, if you're one of the people who just needs to break free of that and you go, hey, I feel convicted because I'm a part of the demand there, we want to hear from you, and there's no judgment. There's only freedom in Christ. And so email us. It will come directly to me, but email us at breakfree@centralcommunity.church, breakfree@centralcommunity.church. And we want to start that dialogue of how we can eliminate the demand here at Central Community Church, because we know that that's one part of the things that we can do. And if there's other things that we can do, we'd love to be a part of that. Continue as we we partner alongside of you guys and give financially, but if there are things that our people can do, please let us know, because we want to champion the work that you guys are doing. We want to be a part of the elimination of this human trafficking. We think that it's not here, but as you said to us, John, it's here. Not only is it here, it's here strong in Wichita. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Cathy and John, both for coming and talking with us for these 2 episodes. It's been enlightening and inspiring. I don't know if it's the right word given the subject, but it's really kind of lit a fire, I think, and I hope for me and for people who are watching and listening to say this is real, and there are some things that we can be doing to either support on the small scale with our own individual families, or on a broader scale with community and society. And so if you're wanting to know more about Hope Ranch for Women and what they do, the website is hr4w.com, hr4w.com, or just Google them like I did because I couldn't remember the address earlier. Yeah. So thank you for listening to this episode. And the last one, and if you have questions again, you can email the church or the Breaking Free at centralcommunity.church if you need more support and information about that. So thank you both.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. May God bless your ministry as you continue to minister to and for and with people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to 167. Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening from.
And to keep up with everything at Central Community Church, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to watch us record this podcast live, find us on YouTube.
We think the 167 hours between church services are so important, and we hope you'll share this episode with your friends. Join us next week.